Okay, good evening and welcome. Apologies for the delay. I'd like to welcome everyone, members, officers, and members of the public to this meeting of the Planning Control Committee. Before the meeting starts, I would invite the committee member scrutiny, the committee member and scrutiny officer to explain how proceedings work. I was being distracted by Councillor Strong then. Amy.
If a member wishes to speak, they should use the speak button located on their microphone unit. The microphone unit will light up green and the chair will be alerted to your request to speak. When the chair invites you to speak, your microphone will be made live and will turn red, at which point you can speak. When the public participants are invited to speak, their microphones will be made live by the committee officer. When requested to vote, voting will be via the yes, no, abstain button on your microphone unit. Details of how members voted will be shown on the screens around the room, and the results will be visible on the YouTube live stream. In the event of a tied vote, the chair will have the casting vote. Are there any questions before the meeting starts? No, I'll hand back to the chair then.
Thank you, Amy. Item 1, apologies for absence. Apologies for absence have been received from Councillors Caroline McDonnell, Val Bryant, Tom Tyson and Martin Prescott. Having given due notice, Councillor Claire Strong will be substituting for Councillor Prescott and Councillor Mick Debenham will be substituting for Councillor Bryant. So welcome. Are there any other apologies? I think we're all covered. Item 2, notification of other business. There is none. Item 3, Chair's announcements. 1, recording. In accordance with council policy, this meeting is being recorded. The recording will be available both on the council's YouTube channel as well as on the council's ModGov site alongside the documents from this meeting. 2, declarations of interest. Members are reminded to make declarations of interest before an item. The detailed reminder about this and speaking rights is set out under Chair's announcements on the agenda. 3, to clarify matters for the registered speakers. Thank you to the members of the public for joining us this evening. To confirm, speakers will each have 5 minutes to make their verbal presentations to the committee. All speakers receive a warning when you have 1 minute remaining. Following the conclusion of your time, members will be invited to ask points of clarification of the speakers. At the end of your allotted time, you'll be advised that the time allowed has ended. 4, debate procedure. In order to move to a debate on an item, we will require a proposer and seconder for a motion at the appropriate time in the meeting. This should take into account the information in the officer's report and will follow the officer presentation and any public presentations, including member advocates, as well as any questions of the officer and points of clarification to the public presenters. As a reminder for members, should you wish to propose a motion contrary to the recommendations included in the officer report, you will be required to provide clear and evidence reasons for this proposal. 5, section 4.8.23a. For the purposes of clarification, in order to vote on an agenda item at this meeting, a member must be present for the entirety of the debate and consideration for that item. If a member leaves the room at any point of the item, they will not be able to vote. 6, meeting cut-off. As outlined under 4.8.24g of the Council's Constitution, if the meeting proceeds to 10:30 p.m, the item being considered at that time will be the final item considered at tonight's meeting. The remaining business will be deferred to the next meeting on Thursday, the 16th of April. 7, additional Planning Control Committee meeting. As members will have been advised, there's been an additional meeting of the Planning Control Committee scheduled for Tuesday, the 21st of April, 2026. Item 4, public participation. I have listed for item 5, I have David Fletcher, cute, Alex Scarlett, David Owens, Clive Hall, and Councillor Bryony May. For item 6, I have Ian Coward, cute, and Councillor Daniel Wright Mason, who I understand is on his way. Item 7, I have Ian Coward. Again, thank you. So if we move to item 5, application 2401013 HYA, land surrounding Burlows Cottages, Newmarket Road, Royston. Councillor May, I believe with declaring interest.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I've sought advice from the monitoring officer, and I have some declarable interests in relation to my husband's role as the chair of Royston Cricket Club, and also his role as a conservator with the Conservators of Thurfield Heath and Greens. So I will not be taking part in this item, but I'm also exercising my right to speak as a member, and we'll move to the public speaking area shortly, and then at the appropriate moment I'll leave the chamber and won't take any further part in this item.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bryony. So just Bryony move. Yeah. Yeah. We should just pause while we play musical chairs without the music. I couldn't. Okay, we'll move on to the officer's report. Sarah Kasparian to present. Sarah.
Thank you, Chair. You will have seen my written update on the application. With regard to item 1 of the update and the third bullet point, I would like to revise the point. My view was that the detail of the mitigation strategy could be dealt with by condition, but Natural England did actually request that the recreation mitigation strategy is revised before issuing a decision. By Natural England agreeing the mitigation strategy before issuing the decision means that we can reflect those agreed items in the Section 106 legal agreement, as there's crossover with the elements in that document. So I propose that through my update now, I withdraw the previously proposed condition and change the recommendation of Part A to add the following sentence. To read, and for a revised recreation mitigation strategy in consultation with and receipt of no objection from Natural England and delegated powers to the Development and Conservation Manager. On to my presentation, please. Can you all hear me all right? Just check. Brilliant, thank you.
Councillor Strong.
That changed the recommendation. Could you give me the page number where you are
Sure,
changing that?
It was on the written update that was issued yesterday.
Oh, it's yesterday's update.
Yes. So under point 1, in relation to the Conservators of Thurfield Heath and Greens representation, and the third bullet point, I recommended an additional condition to deal with the updated recreation mitigation strategy, and instead of that, having the updated recreation mitigation strategy before issuing the decision. But that's okay. So my presentation. This is the site location plan shown with the red line. You can see that the vehicular access onto Newmarket Road is included, as well as the access onto Burlows Lane on the eastern side. Next slide, please. This is an aerial view of Royston with the site shown with the red line for context, with the town centre about 1 kilometre from the site to the west, and the railway station a bit further away, and the junction with the A505 to the east. Next slide, please. This is another aerial view in a bit more detail with a rough red line. You can see Newmarket Road Recreation Ground and the Meridian Gate development site, both to the north of the site, the application site, and the fields around the south and east of the site. The site is broadly rectangular and surrounded on all sides by trees and plantations. Oh. Was there nothing on the previous aerial? No.
Yeah.
I don't know where they've gone. Yeah. It's clear. Yeah, and if we go to the next slide, we can see the red line there. So, yep, sure. Yep, of course.
No.
Yep, go for it.
In the thing. And perhaps, yeah, Do you want to go back to the sort of previous?
Yeah, do you want to go back to the previous slide and show, I'll try and explain, got the field in the middle of the image with what looks like a footpath down the left-hand side, the white line through the plantation to the south. The red line is between the field and the trees. It doesn't include any trees. And the boundary on the east side is the tree line is the boundary and Newmarket Road is the boundary. Burlow's Cottages is excluded from the red line. So if we go to the next slide, you can see how it goes purely around the shape of the field and excludes Burlow's Cottages. Hope that's okay. So this plan comprises one of the master plans and informs the outline part of this planning application, which is a hybrid application. The applicant engaged in the master planning process with council officers in accordance with policy SP9 of the local plan. This one shows the main access points with the main vehicular access with the blue arrow of Newmarket Road. And there will also be a construction and emergency access off Burlow's Lane to the east side. And there are 3 smaller arrows which are points of pedestrian and cycle access, one to the end of Aintree Road, one in the northeast corner and one in the southwest corner. Next slide, please. This slide shows the developable area parameter plan. It's another master plan for the outline part of the application. The yellow indicates areas where there would be buildings and roads, and the green shows where green infrastructure would be, including the complementary habitat buffer, drainage, and the copse in the southeastern corner, which is to be retained and protected. Next slide, please. These are 2 photos standing in front of Burlow's Cottages, looking westwards into the site and a bit up Newmarket Road. Next slide, please. And this is a view standing in the same position, but looking in the other direction, where the new access will be on the left, looking towards the town centre. You can see the gateway signs to Royston in the distance. Next slide, please. And this photo is taken from the other side of those gateway signs, looking back towards the site. You can see the entrance to Burlow's Cottages in the distance on the right. The developer has committed to a range of Strand 1 highway works, which are to be undertaken prior to occupation of the site and will be subject to the usual Section 38 and Section 278 highway agreements. This includes moving the speed limit further east, the 40-mile-an-hour speed limit, putting up a crossing for pedestrians and cyclists, widening the footpath here on this side of Newmarket Road, putting in a footpath link through the recreation ground into the end of the cul-de-sac of Newmarket Road, and implement the active travel corridor up to Poplar Drive. The developer will also pay the full Strand 2 contributions, which have been identified to contribute towards the rest of the active travel corridor from the site to Newmarket Road to the A10 roundabout, as well as work to help cross the A10 in a route from the site towards the railway station. Next slide, please. Back to the plans. This is a green infrastructure framework plan, part of the outline application. It shows the complementary habitat around the perimeter, and the dotted green lines show where the main structural green space will be. These aim to connect the larger green spaces through the site and the drainage areas and swales, green verges, and the green corridor, which is the one on the right-hand side of the plan. That reflects the topography, the steep topography of the site, which will include green space, steps, rainwater and play on the way features. Next slide, please. And this is the access and movement plan. It builds on the previous parameter plan we saw for access. The blue lines show the main road network going through the site with the bus turning circle in light blue, and the east-west lighter dotted line that connects up to Icknield Way that runs down Newmarket Road. This provides an alternative to crossing Newmarket Road and connects through the site instead. You can see the dotted line going north to south on the right-hand side, which reflects the steep green corridor we saw on the previous plan. And the dotted line on the left connects down to the southwestern corner, which leads out into open countryside. The site can deliver most of the B&G requirements on site, but some will need to be off-site. As such, it's recommended that the habitat plan is secured by legal agreement, so that off-site provision and and units can be provided by the developer. Next slide, please. This is the last of the master plans, which indicates building heights, with the hashing indicating potential for taller building heights. Next slide, please. This is a view from the western boundary looking east across the site, where you can see the bowl-shaped topography and the copse of trees in the far right-hand corner. You can see in the distance the bare chalk around the perimeter. This work was undertaken last year to put the overhead power lines underground, so that this is no longer a constraint across the site as it was in the previous planning application that dates back to 2016. Next slide, please. This is a set of illustrative sections of how the development will look at different parts of the site, and being particularly steep through the middle of the site and less steep on the edges, although they are elevated. Next slide, please. So this side shows the red line plan for phase 1 and the detailed layout of the plan on the right. The main vehicle access is included together with the 2 main drainage areas to the east of Burlows Cottages and one in the middle of the bus turning facility. You can see in better detail the depth of the complementary habitat around the perimeter and how homes front onto these green spaces. The layout of the roads and houses in this phase have been carefully designed to take account of the topography for roads and garden spaces and the relationship of houses to each other. As you know, a viability appraisal was submitted with the application, and this has been independently reviewed. After much negotiating on what is viable and what obligations are recommended, we have now reached a position with the developer where there would be a provision of 22% affordable housing, together with a package of financial and non-financial planning obligations. It is acknowledged in particular that while officers have agreed a reduction in affordable housing, the County Council have also agreed with their members a reduction to contributions to their infrastructure, such as schools and libraries and waste services, so that burden is shared. This position has been supported by the applicant, and they agree to pay over the viable position by about $250,000 due to the pressure for contributing to all the services and infrastructure. And they've agreed to a legal mechanism to review viability in the future. Next slide, please. These are 2 photos standing where the new access will go next to the cottages and looking into phase 1. Next slide, please. This is another illustrative section showing the line from the new access in a straight line to the top of the hill on the southern boundary when you join them all together. Next slide, please. And this is the illustrative master plan. This will not be an approved drawing, but does show how the layout could work, taking all the principles and objectives from the parameter and framework plans. Next slide, please. This is the last plan taken from the recreation mitigation strategy, which addresses the need to mitigate the development's impact on Thurfield Heath. The site provides about 3 hectares of SANG, which is suitable alternative natural green space, as well as providing this 2.7 kilometre permissive footpath around the field to the south. And the developer has also agreed a financial contribution towards management measures on Thurfield Heath, which altogether address that requirement. Overall, the proposals are found to weigh significantly and very significantly in favour of the development in relation to the provision of housing and affordable housing. There are other benefits, and the impact of the proposal on the landscape are found to be moderate and therefore balance in favour of the proposal as per my report. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sarah. Do members have any questions for the planning officer? Councillor Ruth Brown.
Thank you, Chair. I have a few questions. The Section 106 agreement, are you saying that it's not finalised, and if permission were to be granted tonight, there would still be negotiating going on regarding the Section 106? Is that what you're saying? I'm not really clear.
It's in a draft format at the moment. So normally it would maybe resolve to grant planning permission and then continue to work on it. It's quite normal. But yeah, some of the detail about triggers and that kind of thing is still subject to some discussions.
Okay, thank you. So there is some possibility of things being amended, but probably not in a material way in terms of the amounts of money being offered. Is that right?
No, probably not on the actual financial contributions, but the terms within that we're still negotiating. Obviously, the application is subject to the viability appraisal, so it's quite the numbers are pretty set in stone, I'd say.
Question I wanted to ask about is the viability review mechanism.
No, just before, Sean, were you looking to come in on that?
Can you tell me about I mean, I've read what it says about the viability review mechanism, but I'm a little concerned that if they get partway through and decide it's not viable, they may, you cross out half the 107 section 106. Is that possible? No.
It doesn't go that way. It only goes the other way. The viability review mechanism would be based upon if viability improves, then further additional contributions would be liable. If the circumstances don't improve and go the other way, it doesn't allow for the reduction in these Section 106 contributions. You would be determining this application based upon the agreed heads of terms, the financial contributions that have been agreed and are set out in the report. The review mechanism will consider at a later date if there is an improvement, for example, in the market and the costs don't go up, then there may well be additional profit and the review mechanism would address that. Not if the circumstances decline. It would not address any decline in those circumstances.
Okay, thank you. So if I'm understanding this right, this is the minimum they would pay.
That's correct.
What's in this agreement?
Yes.
It wouldn't go any lower than we've got here.
Your consideration will be what is based in the report and the contributions set out in the report. If the circumstances were to change, it would have to come back to Planning Control Committee.
Oh, okay. Okay. I'll let others come in. I may have some other questions. Thank you.
Councillor Louise, please.
Thank you. Did the independent viability report look at the viability of the site as a whole, or has the viability of the section that's come in for full planning permission is that the same as the viability for the outline section? Do you understand where I'm coming?
It did look at it as a whole, and I think it's about the first third has come forward now, so they have a good idea of the housing mix in the first phase, but it's still 2/3 is still outlined, so there is an element of estimating, the position because of that. And that's partly why a viability review mechanism is so useful, because when you don't know all the inputs and outputs, you can assess it again later on.
Thank you. Councillor Strong, Claire.
Yeah, this, again, understand. It's just trying to understand the sort of the viability. So the Section 106, an agreement that heads of terms, is that for just the half that we're looking at, or is that or those Section 1s for the whole of the site? Sorry, just for total clarity.
It is for the whole site.
So that's the whole site, but there's this opportunity to come back at another time. So one of the key within this mix of housing was the 22% affordability, which is obviously a lot less than we usually demand on our strategic sites. And I understand that we have this, that we can be look at it and make decisions based on a case-by-case basis. But could that leave us in the future that if the viability of building affordable houses on the rest of the site make the site then viable for the developer, it could be that the 22% is reduced, or
no,
it could go up?
It won't go down. It could only go up, and it depends on the starting point of the viability review, and whether that results in on-site contributions or a financial contribution, if there is an uplift in viability. It could only go up.
Yeah, I
up.
mean, the other comment I'd make is obviously this was a strategic site in the local plan, which was for around 300 dwellings. The fact that the number has gone up, I actually like that, because the more we can actually build on the sites with densities, it means the less land we will have to find in the future. So I'm that part of it, and the mix and everything. I think getting that right and attuned, and to maximise what this site could produce, would be a positive for me.
Thank you. Councillor Peace, Louise.
So if the Section 106 agreement is for the whole site, if the section that we're looking at for full planning permission was built out, and then for some reason circumstances changed and the developer or the applicant decided that actually the rest of the site was not viable, what would happen to those S106 contributions?
Nazanin.
Once the Section 106 has been negotiated and agreed and completed, and the decision is issued, that is a legal agreement, that is a contract, and they will have to comply with that Section 106 agreement. They will have to deliver the affordable housing, they will have to deliver all the financial contributions set out therein, unless there is a review mechanism, which is usually kind of about 2 years after issue, but that's not set in stone, but that's just by way of an example. If the review mechanism shows that the site is more viable, that can change, that can lead to an increase, but it will never lead to a decrease. They will still have to comply with the Section 106 agreement, because that's the contract that has been signed up to.
Thank you. Ruth, I thought you might do.
I've got a few more questions. I mean, I know this site really well. In fact, I was on the planning committee that agreed it last time, but it didn't get built. But I think anyway, I won't make any comment about that for any value judgment.
We're doing this one, not the last one.
Yes, I'm just going to ask questions. Okay, so I like Councillor Strong. I quite like the fact that there are a few more than, but I wanted to ask about the flats. There are flats on this. And how high are how many stories?
The applicant might be able to just.
Oh, shall I wait for the
confirm.
applicant?
I don't think there are any flats on this.
Oh, there aren't any flats
on the first phase.
Oh,
I think there will be some flats on the second phase, which is the second 2/3 of the site. But that plan that I showed with the hatched area across the middle in the kind of arc reflects the shape of the bowl of the site. So I do remember in the previous outline application, the increased height was focused in the northeast corner, wasn't it? Where on the edge of Newmarket Road, where it adjoined existing residential development, because it blended in a bit more. But I think with the urban designers here have given some better advice on how the building height can be elevated on the steeper parts of the site, and the developer has offered a solution to be able to create some more interest in the street scene by having maybe 2.5 stories uphill and 3.5 stories downhill. So that plan allows for taking into account the topography and increasing the height in some places. So it could go up to 3.5, but mainly it will be 2 to 2.5. And there's a ridge height limit on that parameter plan as well. So 2 to 2.5 stories would be set at 10 metres high, and 3 to 3.5 stories would be set at 15 metres high. So it's not just in terms of stories, there is a height kind of limit as well. I think a lot more thought process has gone into it this time.
Yeah, I think I'd agree about that latter statement. Yeah, okay, that's really helpful. It's just I noticed there were some comments about the height. Next question. The what was the emergency access on the original, and the construction management access is now pedestrian and cycle access, isn't it? And will remain so throughout once the development is built out. Is that correct?
So off Burlows Lane, it will still be an emergency and construction access. But it'll be a construction access, and then construction bit won't be used anymore, and it will just be an emergency access. I think that was always the plan.
Will pedestrians and cycles be able to use that? I thought they would in this new plan.
I don't
Maybe
think
Edward
it's an
knows.
official right of way, and it's not shown to be, because you've got the Icknield Way running along Newmarket Road, and it can come into the site as part of our plan that I've shown you. But I don't think it extends down to Burlows Lane, and that's not a public right of way. So I don't think that would be a logical or usable kind of foot or cycle way to kind of dogleg into the site. I don't.
I'm a bit confused now.
Before you come back, Edward, did you wish to add to that or not?
I'm a bit confused because I thought the cycles could come in that way.
I think, as Sarah said, the road is not a public. There isn't a public right of way along that section of the road. There will be an active travel access on the northeast corner of the site, though, that's closer to Newmarket Road. So rather than the emergency access being used as the active travel access, the one on the northeast corner of the site would be an active travel access point.
So wherever there are two separate accesses from the Newmarket Road for cycles.
Yes, correct.
Yes, but that's what I'm trying to drive at. Sorry, I wasn't being very clear. Thank you very much for that. The biodiversity net gain is going to be off-site mostly, is that right?
I think it's mainly on site, but with some off-site provision.
Okay.
Yeah.
But there's some off-site.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, where did I get to with my questions? Oh, so a couple more questions. So the Strand one, so the active travel route, the pedestrian crossing across Newmarket Road and down to Poplar Drive is happening before the development's built, but the
occupation.
But prior to occupation, yes. But the second bit of cycleway into down to the A10 is after occupation. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. So the developer will pay the financial contribution for the bit from Poplar Drive to the A10 roundabout, and then the Highway Authority will do that work themselves.
But there will be a crossing to Newmarket Road before any houses are occupied.
Because that's under the Strand 1 works.
Yeah. Okay, that's good to know. And then I think I've got a couple more questions about sports facilities. In 5.9.4, it states that there's no need for changing rooms or sport halls in Royston. I would argue that there is, and I wonder where that came from.
Came from Sports England. There was a mixture of different projects. See that Sports England provide the calculator with how much the development of that scale should provide, and then we tried to match it up with projects. So if there were no projects, then we couldn't ask the developer to pay towards something that doesn't exist. So I suppose it was at that point in time, and I think there was also that emerging need for cricket and hockey, which came out since. So that was added to the contributions later last year, I think, which the developer did agree to, but the changing rooms didn't come up. I think that there was quite a substantial contribution to play pitches instead. So football and rugby pitches. Yeah.
Yes, I acknowledge the contributions, and I quite concur with you can't provide land on this site for pitches. It's not flat enough. And the topography precludes it. But I would say that, for rugby, for example, they don't have changing rooms that meet the league. They don't meet the their association's requirements. And so I would argue, I don't think Sport England are correct. There is a need for change. There's a definite need for changing rooms and sports pavilions in Royston. I wondered, did you think about a possibility of a sports pavilion on the Newmarket Road recreation ground opposite?
That wasn't mentioned. It wasn't an option at the time of thinking about projects. I think there was a contribution from the Barkway Road application that would have gone to changing rooms.
Right.
Sorry, Nazneen.
Okay.
Sorry, hang on,
Yeah.
Ruth. Nazneen.
Just as a reminder, we're only looking at the application that is before us right now, as opposed to what options may or may not have been looked at. So we just have to determine the application that is in front of members this evening.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Have I got any further questions? Oh, no, I'll leave my other one for later, I think. Thank you.
Do we have any questions from any other members of the planning control committee? Thanks, Ruth. No? I have one question then, which I just wanted to confirm in terms of we've heard a lot about the viability report. Can you just remind the committee how that is done and by whom?
So the viability appraisal was prepared by the applicant and their viability consultant. They submitted it to us as part of the application. and we instructed DSP, Dixon Self Partnership, to review it. So they advised us and came up with several options and testing different options. So it was a process over the last couple of years, looking at different levels of affordable housing. I think there were two options: the 22 and 25% affordable housing, and then what pot would be available for contributions. So it's been a process of negotiating all of that over the last couple of years and different scenarios.
So if we could move to our first public speaker, Clive Hall. Clive, you have 5 minutes, and I'll let you know when you have a minute left, as gently as I can.
Thank you, Chair, councillors. My name is Clive Hall, and I'm the current chair of the Conservators of Thurfield Heath and Greens. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you this evening. I last spoke to you in January 2019, when I drew your attention to the harmful impact of development on Thurfield Heath SSSI. Unfortunately, since then, the state of the SSSI has worsened, and in 2024, Natural England downgraded the site. It is still a SSSI of national importance, but it's under pressure and is no longer recovering. I very much hope that I won't be returning in another 7 years to tell you that the features for which it is a SSSI have been destroyed, but every time developments are permitted without sufficient mitigation, the rate of decline increases. Much has changed since 2019. Later that year, you passed a climate emergency. In 2023, you declared an ecological emergency to recognise the crisis facing nature. You created a local plan that at paragraph 4.162 states that in the absence of any European habitat sites in the district, you will give nationally important sites, like Thurfield Heath SSSI, levels of protection usually given to European habitat sites. You have agreed a supplementary planning document that extends policy to include the Thurfield Heath SSSI mitigation strategy, which itself you agreed with Natural England and later passed as a material planning consideration. Councillors, everything I have mentioned is great and accords with your declared ecological emergency. But I'm sorry to say that where there is a difference between talking the talk and walking the walk. This Burlows development proposal before you this evening does not walk the walk. The Section 106 funding for the SSSI is at £350 per dwelling. This is to fund mitigation measures on Thurfield Heath. However, when you include indexation, it works out lower than the level agreed in 2020 when you last granted planning on this site. The Conservators wrote with our expectation for funding based on the case study in the SSSI strategy. Yet what has been agreed is 28% of the revenue and none of the capital. Sport, in comparison, will receive 100% of the funding it asked for, and it has requested significantly larger sums. Councillors, the emergency is an ecological emergency, not a sports emergency. So what I'm asking you to do this evening is actually quite simple. I'm asking you to think about your declared ecological emergency and defer this decision. I want you to do that to allow the applicant more time to agree with Natural England and other parties a revised recreation mitigation strategy. Natural England have said such a document is needed, and it has not been produced. That document will recognise the levels of funding that will adequately mitigate for the recreational pressure this development will cause. It needs to be all of what was requested, not 28% with other parts dropped. It needs to walk the walk. We all recognise that this Burlows development will deliver valuable housing. But this is a planning application where matters about the principle of development of the site are to be decided. As such, the SSSI cannot be predicted by conditions or via reserved matters. Please think about what I said and defer. Defer to give the developer enough time to agree with Natural England and other interested parties a revised recreation mitigation strategy that is aligned to the ecological emergency. Thank you for your time.
Thanks very much, Clive. Do the members of the committee have any points of clarification from Clive? Councillor Mantle.
How far is the SSSI from the nearest point in this development?
The SSSI strategy defines two zones, an inner zone at 1.9 kilometres and an outer zone of influence at 5.8 kilometres. This falls within the inner zone, within the 1.9 kilometres.
Does that answer your question, Neil, or do you want to come up? Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? No. Thank you, Clive. In which case, I'll ask the member advocate, Councillor Bryony May. Bryony, you've got 5 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening. My purpose this evening is to put forward the views not only of myself, but also of those of the 3 ward members for Royston Meridian Ward, in which the Burlows application site is located, as these members are unable to attend this evening. Our comments this evening are less of an objection and more of a qualified acceptance. These proposals have, on the whole, been well put together and will serve to meet local housing needs. But there are some reasons for concern, and I will come to those. It is natural to draw comparisons between this site and the Barkway Road site, which this committee rejected back in October. This site is in Royston for a similar number of homes and is situated on the same hill, albeit not at the top. But this plan is not that plan. This site is in the local plan and was previously granted permission. Whilst it involves the loss of countryside, it is a relatively logical extension of the town and it can be integrated into the existing community. The route into town is flat. Cycling and walking has been properly considered. It is within walking distance to the school at King James Academy. The proposal to provide more direct pedestrian access to Studland's Rise First School, whilst minimising the impact on Berry Plantation, is also welcome. The applicant has engaged admirably with the local community and has made meaningful improvements to the plans on the basis of that engagement. Having said all this, there are still reasons for concern, and it is important for the committee to be aware of these when reaching its decision. The first is on highways. We do not accept the assessments by the Highways Authority that there is no need for mitigation at the junction between Newmarket Road and the A505. For those not familiar, exiting Royston here and heading east towards the M11, as many people do, involves firstly crossing the lane of westbound traffic, then turning right into the dual lane flow of eastbound traffic, which is travelling at the national speed limit at this point. In addition, the central reservation for right turning traffic here only has capacity for 1 or 2 vehicles, depending on their size. It is pertinent that the Highways Authority is now finally embarking on a safety review of a different section of the A505, following a spate of tragic incidents and considerable public outcry, on which there are several junctions very similar to this one. Adding 300 plus houses in close proximity to this junction will increase the safety risk. In this case, there is a simple mitigation: close the right turn exit and direct traffic to the roundabout a few hundred yards to the west instead. The junction would be safer for everyone, and traffic flow out of the town would also improve. We accept that in the absence of a highways objection, this cannot be used as a reason for refusal. But if there is any way that this problem can be kept under consideration and explored further through this process, then we urge you to take it. The second issue is Section 106 for the protection of Thurfield Heath SSSI. It is disappointing that the level of financial contributions for mitigation measures continues to be calculated in such an arbitrary fashion. The conservators of the Heath have a duty to deliver the mitigation. They have made their position very clear that the contributions included here are not sufficient, nor have they been invited to engage with this process early enough to reach an agreement. By not listening to them, we are setting them up to fail. This is a material consideration and it must be properly addressed. We accept that there are viability constraints on this site, but our real point here is that there needs to be a better way of doing this, an agreed formula perhaps, like there is for sports pitch provision, for example. The current approach is not good enough. The council must engage with the Conservators and with Natural England to ensure that the SSSI gets the protections it needs. Our final comment is on affordable housing. Affordable housing is one of the most important things this committee can deliver. 22% is better than 15%, but it is still a lot less than 40% required by the local plan. We accept the reasons for this in this case, but if you approve these plans tonight, as we expect you will, it is vital that the circumstances here are fully explored and that this does not set a precedent for a watering down of the 40% requirement elsewhere in the district. So in summary, we accept the principle of development on this site and believe that these plans should go ahead, but there are problems with it and we ask that you explore these fully before reaching your decision. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor May. Do we have any points of clarification for Bryony? No? Okay. In which case, could I call the applicant's agents? I've got David Fletcher, Alex Scarrett and David Owens. Now, am I right you're going to share the 5 minutes? But no. You're going to speak. Okay. That probably makes it easier. In your own time, and I'll let you know when you've got a minute left.
Brilliant. Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I'm David Fletcher. I'm planning consultant from Sarah's Property, acting on behalf of Vistry, the applicants. As I said, I've got Alex Scarrett, who's from Marquides Associates, our transport consultant, on my left. And I've got David Owens, who's from Vistry on my right, who are on hand to answer any questions members may have. The planning application before you tonight has been subject to a positive and collaborative process between the applicants and your planning officers, which was underpinned from a planning performance agreement, which we agreed right from the outset. The PPA for the site included both the hybrid planning application, but also the preparation and completion of the strategic master plan framework for the site. As you've heard from your planning officer, the strategic master plan framework for the site has been agreed. And as part of this process, we held a number of design workshops, not just with your planning officer, but also with your urban design, ecology, transport policy officer, along with a number of meetings with the Highway Authority. We believe this has resulted in a very high quality design-led master plan and will lead the way to a high quality development, which we believe is reflected within the phase 1 proposals. I also thank the local member for her kind words about the engagement process that we've been on. We've sought to engage positively with Royston Town Council, the local community, and answer any questions they've had. This included attending the Royston Community Forum, which I felt to be a very engaging event, and we sought to provide written updates following this forum to answer concerns and questions that both members of the public and members had. The scheme will deliver a number of benefits to both existing and new residents. This includes a crossing over Newmarket Road, which we've heard about from your officer, along with a new footway and cycleway improvements from Newmarket Road to Poplar Drive, which will be delivered by the applicants. In addition, the development will deliver a substantial package of Section 106 contributions, which I know, again, your officer has talked about, which will total in excess of 10 million. This includes a 3.2 million contribution to deliver a new cycleway from Poplar Drive down to the A10, as requested by the Highway Authority to be delivered by them. The scheme has also been designed to facilitate bus access within phase 1 of the development, again, as you saw from your officer, including a bus turning loop. A contribution has also been provided of 875,000 to support a new bus service early on in the development. Careful consideration has also been given to the protection of Thurfield Heath, and a detailed recreation strategy was indeed submitted as part of the planning application. To give members comfort on this matter, the consultation response from Natural England specifically refers that from their perspective, they've got no objection to the development subject to a revised recreation strategy being secured by way of Section 106 agreement. Obviously, your officers put forward that suggestion, which we as applicants are very supportive of. In this regard, as mentioned by your officer, the scheme includes a 2.7 kilometre circular walking route on land to the south of the site, which will be a fully dogs off lead area to be secured in perpetuity. This route to the south of the site is actually directly referenced within the Fairfield Heath supplementary planning document, which is obviously a material consideration, and it will provide a benefit not just to our new residents, but actually an alternative to existing residents on the east side of Royston to go and walk their dogs locally rather than having to travel in the car to the other side of Royston to Fairfield Heath. I should note that the circular walking route wasn't secured as part of the 2020 application. In terms of next steps, again, what's different to the 2020 application is Vistry have actually exchanged to buy this site. So if planning permission is granted, the intention is to commence with the development immediately on site, and that was one of the key reasons that we submitted a hybrid planning application rather than just an outline. So if members are minded to grant planning permission, this site has the opportunity to provide a meaningful contribution to housing supply in the district. Thank you.
Thank you. Do members have any questions for the applicants? Councillor Brown. Ruth.
Thank you very much. And I would agree that when you came to the forum, it was a really worthwhile discussion. I just wanted to clarify, I think I heard you say this, but the bus is going in very early. So when will it start? Before, as soon as the houses are occupied, or because that's really important for active travel?
Yeah, I mean, I can take this one. Alex might want to chip in, but so what we were really keen to do is have the bus turning loop in phase one, so we can deliver it in phase one. Obviously, with buses, the key thing from their perspective, obviously, you need a population of people there before you can make the bus route workable. So obviously, we'll need to have a certain number of occupations within that first phase before the bus will be able to enter, because obviously we'll need the population on the site. But it's in the first phase, which is the first 108 dwellings.
Can I come? Yes. Okay. I hear you. It's a bit of a catch-22, isn't it? Because if you don't provide the bus, people get used to driving by car, and then they don't get out of the habit. But I understand it. But I think there was a proposal that a bus could be diverted. So as long as that turning circle is there, you could actually drive the bus up there with nobody there, couldn't you? Could you?
Yeah. I think from our perspective, exactly as you said, we're really keen to get the buses into the site because we see that as a benefit from our perspective. And as you say, it's getting the habits in early in the process. Obviously, what we'll need to do is engage with the bus operators to get them on board with that, and that's something that we're very keen to do.
Thank you. Councillor Claire Strong.
Yes, I'm intrigued about this footpath and sort of the materials that's going to be used to construct it, and also after it's constructed, who's responsible for maintaining it?
Yeah, so with the footpath, because the idea is obviously it wants to be, it's an informal route for dog walking effectively. So it's it will be a path that you would normally go and walk your dog on. So we're not looking to we're not looking at a concrete path or anything like that. We'll obviously agree the formal details as part of the section 106, and we've obviously talked about the recreation strategy. The maintenance of it it will be an obligation on the landowner, and the key thing from Natural England is that it will be secured for 80 years, which 80 years in case law effectively means it's secured in perpetuity, because once a route has been operational for 80 years, there's no ability then to take away that route. And that was a key point from Natural England that we offered up in our response to their first consultation response.
Thank you. Claire, you're looking like you want to ask another question. Please go ahead.
Well, it's more probably directed at the officers to know that the footpath is going to be signed, sealed, and delivered from.
We'll get to the officers in a minute.
Yeah, okay, but I'll come back on that.
Okay.
It's all tied up.
Do any members have any other questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you. In which case, I'll invite the officer to respond to any issues raised. Anne.
Thank you.
So
So I'll leave Edward to respond on highways matter, and the bus contribution, but the footpath, yeah, it will be set out in the recreation mitigation strategy and secured through the Section 106. So the materials would normally, it will all be agreed with the rights of way people as you would normally see in the countryside, and on 80 years or for the lifetime of the development, there's 2 options for triggers for the footpath. But yeah, part of the detailed Section 106 negotiation, that would be. That was everything I wanted to come back on.
thank you. 2 things to report. One is just to say Councillor May has left the room at this stage. And 2, Alan is in fact Sarah. And apologies, that's twice I've done that this week. I'm so sorry. Do we have any other questions of the officer? Claire, did that answer your question? Okay. No other questions?
Chair,
Edward.
I'll just come back on the 2 highways related points. So the safety of the junction of the Newmarket Road and A505. The applicant's report looks at the 5-year history of the whole of Newmarket Road junctions at both ends, and it does report that there have been 2 incidents recorded at that junction, both of which were classified as serious. So it is identifiable as a it's been slightly more dangerous than perhaps other junctions. However, from a planning perspective, it hasn't been demonstrated that this development will make that junction less serious. So therefore, it remains a highway matter to keep it safe. There's no reason in principle, if the applicant and the Highway Authority were agreeable, that some of the Strand 2 contribution could be used towards improving the safety of that junction. At the moment, it's worded as improving active travel for the site, and that would be the priority. But if, as I say, if the Highway Authority were agreeable and the applicant were agreeable, that could be amended to be that, to have that flexibility in the Section 106. To clarify on the bus, so the heads of terms state that the first contribution for the bus service will be prior to occupation. So the money will be paid over to the Highway Authority, and it will be up to the bus team to determine when is the appropriate time to bring the bus service into the site. And as you say, if it's diverting existing service, then that it doesn't therefore require the same level of patronage to make it viable in the long term. So it may well be that it comes in either at first occupation or very shortly after, but that would be a matter for the Highway Authority or the bus team at the Highway Authority.
Thank you. I have a further question. Do we have, before we move on to the next section, do we have a further condition? In which case, can I have the wording now rather than trying to muddle through it? Was it a conditional or not?
The written update proposed a condition, but that proposal has been withdrawn.
Right.
We feel that the matter can be dealt with in the negotiations,
Yep.
during the negotiations for the details of the Section 106 agreement.
Yeah. So in fact, the condition I have is D. I can take out on here. Yeah, but okay.
The conditions are set out in the
Yeah.
report.
That's fine. I was trying to have chaos now rather than chaos in 2 minutes when I'm reading it. Achieve that. Councillor Brown, Ruth.
Thank you, Chair. Will you indulge me in one further question to the officer?
Of course.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask, obviously we've heard all about the viability and the 22% affordable. Are you satisfied? I mean, the North Herts housing officer, are our housing team satisfied with the contribution and the mix that is being proposed?
They're not happy with 22%. Of course, they'd like to see the full complement, but it's a planning judgment to look at the viability of the scheme. So officers are satisfied that the full an optimum amount of affordable housing has been secured. The applicant originally proposed 15%. We explored 22 and 25%, and with the demand for contributions to services and infrastructure. I think we've got a good balance, hence my recommendation. And I think having the viability review mechanism will really make sure that, because part of it is outline, we will be able to secure any uplift if conditions do improve beyond the forecast.
And on the tenure and housing mix?
Yes, sorry. And I think the mix is good as well. I think the applicant would have preferred a 50-50 split between social and intermediate tenures, but we've stuck to the policy compliant 65-35 split. So the housing team are very happy about that, and each phase reflects the correct proportions. So I'm also pleased about that.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't got when you said go on.
As we're talking housing mix, can you tell me just on the what's the percentage of 4 and 5 bedrooms and above?
I'm not sure I could tell you that off the top of my head. I don't know if the applicant could.
We're not allowed to bring the applicant back.
No, they're not allowed to. Okay. If you bear with me, I could have a little look.
While you're looking, can I bring in Sean, whatever point he wants to make? Sean.
Yes, I just thought I'd point out what the policy in our local plan says with regards to affordable housing, just to remind members. That's policy HS2, and that sets out a target for affordable housing, which for developments of this size, that is 25 dwellings or more, the target is 40%. However, the affordable housing is, and the policy states this, is provided in accordance with that target, subject to viability. So viability is part of the equation when considering a proposal against this policy. We have discussed, obviously, the viability appraisal, and that this has been carefully assessed by consultants that we've appointed, and it's come to the view that the percentage on offer is at the viable level, and therefore officers have concluded that the proposal complies with local plan policy HS2, which makes provision for viability to be considered as part of that assessment. I'd like also now to just refer back to the mitigation, the recreational mitigation. Natural England have confirmed in their response that they are broadly satisfied with the applicant's proposed outline mitigation measures, subject to these being detailed in a revised recreation mitigation strategy. So they're not seeking changes to their overall strategy, they're just seeking detail. As part of that strategy, an important material consideration is obviously the Fairfield Heath mitigation strategy, which we produced in November 2022 in support of the local plan. And that strategy not only includes contributions towards Fairfield Heath, but an important part of that strategy is to divert people away from the SSSI to alternative provisions. And as part of this proposal, there's on-site open space and the proposed footpath to the south, the permissive footpath, which would provide alternative provision for people who would be occupiers of this development, not having to get in their car and drive over to Fairfield Heath, which is the other side of Royston, but to use that permissive footpath and to use the open space within the development. And that's part of the proposed mitigation strategy on this site, this recreational strategy. So the contributions to the Conservatives is important, but that alternative has been taken into account when coming up with a reasonable amount of contribution, and that's a negotiation between officers and the appellant. And officers feel that we've reached the right level in terms of on-site SANG, which is obviously alternative provision, and the permissive footpath, and the contribution to the Conservatives of Fairfield Heath. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Sean. Do we have an answer?
Thank you. So phase one would deliver 33 4-beds and 6 5-beds. So that's 36% of the housing, and the rest would be 1, 2 and 3 bed units. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. Good. Right. The officer's recommendation is to grant permission unless members are minded to propose a different recommendation on this item, along with material planning reasons. I shall be proposing that we grant permission. Okay. Therefore, I propose that we grant planning permission subject to A, the completion of a satisfactory legal agreement, including a conditional viability review mechanism, and for officers to negotiate appropriate viability review triggers to ensure that viability is revisited at appropriate junctures throughout the development. B, the applicant agreeing to extend the statutory period in order to complete the agreement as required. C, providing delegated powers to the development and conservation manager to update conditions and informatives with minor amendments as required. And D, conditions as set out in the report. May I have a seconder? Councillor Winstanley. Yep. In which case, may I see those in favour? Granted. Oh, sorry, debate. Oh, sorry. And there was me thinking we'd had a debate already. It just feels that way. I'm so sorry. Do we have any debate? Councillor Strong.
I would like just one tweak of the conditions. Sorry about that. And that's in condition 29, which is the construction management plan. Well, I don't know if it's the same tweak you want, but it's the particular tweak I would like is on the timing of delivery. And it says, can I tweak that? It's 29 little g, timing of construction activities, delivery times. And it just says to avoid school pickup and drop off times. Rather than avoid, I'd like something a little tighter that says to not be between the hours of the school pickup, which is 8 to 9:15 and 3 to 3:45.
Sarah, are you able to respond to that? Or?
That detail is all to be submitted by the applicant and agreed by us and the Highway Authority. I suppose a very tight wording is it would make it more enforceable from to avoid school pickup times and all of that. I don't see why not. Yeah. Yep. It's fine.
So is that? I was being distracted. We're having two conversations here.
We've agreed a change to condition number 29,
Yep.
point G, to not to avoid school pickup, but I don't know I can't remember what the wording is.
I think we've got the word.
What word did you use?
What was your wording?
To not between, not. Yeah. Okay.
I'm so glad somebody was listening. Thank you.
Thank you. Very good.
Particularly as somebody's lived on plans where usually they're coming full plans unless they are particularly to the construction manager amendment plan.
Yeah.
So thank you. I thank you that.
Is that going to be? Will that be covered by the existing wording of D, or do we need to amend it?
Yes, that would be covered by that part of the recommendation. Yeah.
We have another amendment to a condition here, I think. Who would like to take it?
Before we skip on, can we just, we've got a proposal for an amendment from Councillor Strong to condition 9. We need a second for that amendment.
Right.
And then if you're happy to accept.
Yeah. So we have a proposal to amend the condition from Councillor Strong. It's seconded by Councillor Brown, who wishes to speak on the.
Yes, I will second that, but I also had another amendment, which was a different one to that.
One at a time.
Oh, we're going to do them one at a time. The same point, though, but a different amendment.
So can we vote? Move to vote?
Yeah, I think we seconded it. Councillor Deb.
Yeah, Councillor Brown seconded it.
Councillor Brown.
So if we could vote on accepting Councillor Strong's amendment.
That motion's carried.
Thank you. Councillor Brown, you have another amendment.
Yes, my proposal, given the discussions about some of the objections as well, was that that the construction management plan specifically says that the construction traffic must go via the 8505, not through the centre of town. Is it possible to put that in? So they would need to go right out of the site to the A505 and then left or right from there onto the A505, because if they go through the centre of town, we could end up with a lot of lorries right in the centre of the town, which is not helpful. Is it possible to put a condition? Because there's a whole list of conditions around this construction management plan listed here, but there's nothing about not about the route, about not turning left and going through the town centre.
Is anyone able to? It seems quite a high,
It says
very detailed level of.
details of route.
It says includes details of routes, but it doesn't specifically say that it would what the route is. And I know these things are agreed later, but just for belt and braces, I think it would be. I was just wondering if we could include it as part of the condition.
Let's see if that's possible, Edward.
It is possible. I'm mindful that we do have to trust the professionals who deal with this to consider these matters. I wonder if there's a way of kind of just noting in the decision a kind of advisory, if you like, informative to the Highway Authority that they should consider that point. I see no reason in principle, but I don't kind of want to. I don't think we should be making up rules without the full context. It seems reasonable, but I think could we do it as an informative rather than as an amendment?
Who wants to respond to that?
I'm happy for that. That's fine as an informative. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. As long as it's specified.
Councillor Strong.
Well, I was happy to second your on as part of the construction management that the traffic should not take a particular route through the town. And I say that as somebody, again, from experience, who's lived on a construction management plan where they took the traffic. Sorry. I've done it. I've been there, seen it. And rather than go through one village, it came through our village. So it can be done. I know it can be done. So I think I agree with Councillor Brown that if you want to get the construction materials in, they should be specified what route they're going to come in, and when they're bringing their great big cranes and there's a lot of materials that come in, and they are big lorries.
I'm interested to hear what Nazneen's got to say. I'm just worried about the level of granularity we're getting into. Nazneen.
Thank you, Chair. So there is a condition set out here for the construction management plan, which is site-wide, and the developer would have to submit the construction management plan, and it would have to be approved by the local planning authority. So to set out specific details like that, we have to make sure that we're complying with the 6 tests for conditions. Are they reasonable? Are they necessary? And going into such detailed level of, I'm going to say the word again, details, might not be considered to meet all the 6 tests for conditions as required in the national guidance. Therefore, I think it would be more appropriate to maybe set the informative, which isn't then restrictive, but it's an advisory, but to allow the construction management plan condition to do its job, and that would have to be submitted to local authority. It would be considered, and then anything that is approved would have to be complied with site-wide going forward.
Okay, are the committee happy with that suggestion? Accept that. Okay. Do we have further debate? Councillor Brown, Ruth.
So moving on to the main debate, I think overall the strategic master plan's pretty good. We've had a look at it a few times, and I think it's actually an improvement on what we approved in 2020. I think the active travel, it particularly isn't a big improvement. That was not included at all, really, in the 2020. I think there are very significant S106 contributions. I like the fact that we've got sports included. I am disappointed that the full contribution for the mitigation of Thurfield Heath is not there. And I'm especially disappointed that the Conservators were not engaged earlier. And I hope that won't be repeated for future developments. I hope that our planning team will engage with them at an early stage and make sure that they can agree something that's acceptable. Because I think this is probably at least the second time where something's come up at the last minute with the Conservators not being happy about a site and the contributions, and that SSSI is getting significantly more pressure on it. I would just say about the footpath, because I know this area so well, I used to live up here, and that footpath is not a new footpath. It's currently a path that people use for dog walking. People regularly walk it. I used to walk it very regularly when I lived up there. So it's not a new footpath. It is an existing path. It's to be welcomed that it's going to be preserved in perpetuity. That's fantastic, but it is actually a path that people currently use for dog walking. So I would argue that it's not really a mitigation for Thurfield Heath, because people already from this side of town already use that for dog walking. So it will mean that the people on this site might use that instead of Thurfield Heath, but I don't think it will make a material difference to the number of people that dog walk on Thurfield Heath personally, or go walking on Thurfield Heath, because as I say, it's already used quite by quite a lot of people. You see people walking around there all the time. So just wanted to just set the record straight on that one. So I think there's lots of things I welcome. I welcome the engagement that has gone on, and it's disappointing that there's not as much affordable housing, but I understand the viability issue. This is a very the topography is challenging. I wanted allotments on here when I was the cabinet member. I asked for allotments, and they were like, "No, you can't put allotments on this site. It's just not suitable." I understand that it's not suitable for sport pitches, etc. I welcome the off-site contributions for sports. I'm disappointed that the statement by Sport England has been accepted without checking with local sports clubs, because if you went and asked the chairs of all the local sports clubs, you would hear very loud and clear that we don't have enough changing rooms, we don't have enough sports pavilions. In fact, I represent, as a county councillor now, several villages that have more sports facilities than Royston does, which really shocks me. So we're playing catch up here a bit. So that is disappointing. But overall, I cannot see. I welcome the way this new plan, and I will be supporting it. Thank you.
Thanks, Ruth. Do we have any further debate? No. Okay. I have just to throw anything in, I have a further condition to add, if it is acceptable to the committee, which is to add condition E for a revised recreation mitigation strategy, and in consultation with and receipt of no objection from Natural England and delegated powers to the development and conservation manager. Is that, we've been playing with the words, I'm sorry. So do you want me to repeat that again? Or I'd like to move that as a condition. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Strong. Oh.
Yeah, I'm happy to second that. I think that's a good mitigation to try and resolve some of these issues. So thank you. I'm happy to second that.
So if we could move to a vote to approve that additional condition, please.
That motion's carried.
Thank you. So if we can move to vote on the application as amended, and as we've just further amended it, if I could see those to vote, please.
That motion's carried.
Thank you very much. We got that. I suggest we take a 5-minute break at this point. and play musical chairs again.
Oh, yeah, the other way.
Sorry?
I didn't see Daniel coming.
Yeah, no, he was outside.
Oh, was it? Right.
Thanks for that. I was worried he was getting stuck on a train somewhere. Okay, shall we recommence? Yes, please. With Councillor Mantle's approval, we're going to recommence. Yes, okay. Councillor Mason's got a very, very short role in this cameo on this bit. We move to item 6, which is application 25 01420 FP Highover Farm, Highover Way, Hitchin. At this point, Councillor Mason is going to declare an interest in this item and leave the chamber, and Councillor Fernandez will take over the chair. Emma.
It's not saying legally.
Right, I'll just carry on now from where Councillor Mason left off, and Sarah Kasparian is ready to present her report on this application. Both items 6 and 7 will be considered in the same report.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it's one presentation for both applications because they relate to the same thing. I have no further updates to my written update yesterday. So onto the slideshow. Thank you. This is the site location plan. The site is accessed from the end of Highover Way and sits between the existing residential area of Highover Way and Alma Rise and what will be the new development at Highover Farm to the north. The site does form part of the HT6 site allocation, but was excluded from the site boundary from the outline planning application due to the then recent listing of the threshing barn. This is considered to be a small self-contained development, although I have assessed it as well in the report in the context of the wider HT1 site. Next slide, please. This is the aerial view with my red line. And it shows the extent of the site, and the access is shown in green. That's my scribbles. The access is owned by Barrett's David Wilson, but the applicant has a right of access over that. Next slide, please. And that's just a zoomed in detailed aerial view. You can see some of the site and the buildings are overgrown, and that the site has been clearly vacant for some time. The boundary of the site is not marked out on this aerial view, but there is some fencing on site that shows some of the boundary. Next slide, please. This is a Google Street View of the entrance at the end of Highover Way. The access road is currently used for informal car parking. It's not tarmacked, but there is some block paving. The new access road would be tarmacked and has been designed in accordance with the proposals for the active travel corridor leading into the HT6 site. Next slide, please. This is another street view image of the western elevation of the barns. The taller black timber framed building on the left will be retained, and part of the brick built barn that is overgrown on the left will be removed to enable the vehicular access. Next slide, please. This is another street view image of the same elevation from the other direction. Next slide, please. And this is a view of the north elevation of the farmyard with the threshing barn in the centre. The HT1 master plan shows this area to be maintained as green space, and it's known as the threshing barn green on the master plans, and that helps to protect the setting of this listed building. Next slide, please. This is another view of the western side of the farmyard where units 1 and 2 will be and the main access into the site. You'll see where the boundary it will be according to the wooden posts on the left there. Next slide, please. And this is a view from the inside of the farmyard looking at the edge of the threshing barn. Oh no, sorry, wrong one. This is a photo from the inside of the farmyard with the timber frame building that will form Unit 2 and the bit of the brick barn to be demolished for the access on the left. And that's the threshing barn on the right. Next slide, please. This is a view from outside the farmyard looking at the edge of the threshing barn and then the units 5 to 8 further up with the brick buildings. The fencing here is not shown in the right place to indicate the ownership boundary. This was to make sure that there was still vehicular access into the HT1 site before they install their construction accesses from Stockwell Road. This is the area where the amenity space will be for these barns, measuring about 5 metres deep, as you will see from the site plan shortly. Next slide, please. This is a view of the same buildings from inside the farmyard, with the threshing barn on the left. Next slide. And this is a view of the front of what will become units 9 and 10. And these would be a pair of semi-detached 3-bedroom bungalows. Next slide. This is the front of the former farmhouse. These will be divided into 2 units. Next slide. And this is the existing rear elevation, which will become the front elevation of these units looking into the farmyard, with those little extensions being removed and a more considered extension being added to what will become the rear of the farmhouse. Next slide, please. This is taken looking towards where the new build units will be and Unit 1 in the brick barn to the right. And the structure in the foreground will be half demolished, half kept as a cycle store. Next slide. This is a view between the farmhouse and the boundary with Armour Rise. The photo is taken roughly where the new build units will be located, and this large area will form the garden spaces for the units that back onto Armour Rise. Next slide. So this is the site plan. You can see where the access comes in pink over the Barrett land. The new boundary that will be implemented to the north with the wider HT1 site. The applicant has thoughtfully considered cycle and bin storage, car parking, trees and landscaping, and there's a B&G dedicated area for the full 10% on-site B&G provision. The footpath has been incorporated into the top northern corner for foot and cycle access from the farmyard into the wider HT1 site. Next slide. So this is the proposed ground floor plan, which is very detailed. I'm not sure you can see all of it right now, but you can see part of the retained building there for the cycle storage in the middle, and the other outbuilding is new. There's an outbuilding that's to be demolished, but that's a new one to accommodate bin storage and a carport. Car parking is provided for each unit, as well as visitor spaces, whilst trying to respect the traditional openness of a farmyard and the setting of the listed building. Next slide, please. This is the first floor plan. You can see that some of the units will be ground floor only. There's a range of 2, 3 and 4 bedroom properties, which all meet the space standards. I wanted to mention that there's a viability appraisal submitted with this application, which has been independently reviewed. It was found that the site could support a level of financial contributions. In this case, the full growth and infrastructure contributions are agreed, and the applicant has made a case for not accommodating affordable housing on the site. So a commuted sum has been agreed as set out in my report. The full contribution could not be supported, but the majority is agreed. Next slide. These are the plans for the new build properties. They're designed to complement the roof plan and form of some of the brick built barns currently on the site. These will be built of part brick and part timber cladding to complement the other materials on the farmyard. Next slide. This is the existing site survey, and I've shown which elements are to be demolished. There are some new build elements as well that are shown on the floor plans, which I haven't shown here, but I hope that's useful. Next slide. This is a screenshot of the protected trees on the site. The trees are generally not in a great condition, but they're all to be retained except for one, which will be replaced and still covered by the TPO. Next slide. And this is a screenshot of the HT1 master plan, and I've shown in pink the site boundary of the farmyard so that you can see how it fits in, particularly with the footpaths and the threshing barn green. Next slide. This is a site plan that shows the boundary treatment, and the main principle I wanted to highlight was how the boundary with the threshing barn green as part of HT1 will be a light boundary comprising estate-style metal fencing together with landscaping to protect the amenity of new residents, but to keep the open and green space concept and continue to protect the immediate setting of the listed building. Next slide. So thinking more about the listed building consent application in particular, this is a threshing barn, and you can see the poor state of repair. The building had been protected by scaffolding for several years, but that was removed. The conservation officer had also agreed a scheme of works to remove the slate tiles to help protect the building through the winter months and help save as many tiles as possible for reuse. Next slide. This is an internal view of the structure. I understand the timbers are all in good condition, but it's planned that a steel frame will be needed to convert the building and will be around the existing timber structure. Next slide. It's a view of the ceiling. It's quite nice. Next slide, please. This is the ground floor plan. So the whole listed building will be divided into 2 units, units 3 and 4. Unit 3 will also use the single-storey brick built structure in the corner, on the left-hand corner. And unit 4 on the right will have the central bay of the threshing barn, which will be retained with its full height and threshing floor. Next slide, please. And this is the first floor plan. So the units will be like upside down living with the living accommodation on the first floor, which helps with the subdivision of the roof structure and keeping that to a minimum. The applicant and the conservation officer engaged in pre-application advice on this detail, including where windows and other openings should go and other details of the listed building. So to conclude, given the significant heritage benefit of securing the optimal viable use of the threshing barn as a statutory listed building and the reuse of the derelict site, which is within housing allocation HT1, into a sensitively designed proposal for residential development, I recommend approval subject to the conditions and a suitable legal agreement as set out in my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. That was a very interesting presentation. Are there any points of clarification from members? Councillor Brown.
Thank you for that. It's very interesting. That's beautiful inside, isn't it? You'd never guess from looking on the outside. And good to see that there's a scheme to preserve this beautiful building that's in a serious state of disrepair. But my question is around access, because I don't quite understand from your presentation where the access to this site is and how it relates to the access to obviously the large site, and if they're connected anyway. I'm not clear about that. Have I missed something, or can you clarify for me, please? Because I may have missed something.
It is difficult. Obviously, there's the 2 sites and how they work together. So we have been thinking about that. Hive Away, you've got number 17.
Could we have the plan back? The sort of the landscape plan.
Yes, it's possible to find the.
And then can you point it out, because that will help.
The site plan.
Yeah.
With the green garden shown, that'd be really helpful.
I think it might be quite near the beginning.
Yeah, the proposed site plan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that one.
Yeah. That's it. Beautiful. So Hive Away comes straight up into that pink access road. We've got 79 on the left. I think it's 81 on the other side. And at the moment, it's quite wide. It's untarmacked. It's got some informal parking, and then it there's a tree kind of directly in sight at the end, and then it curves round. So it's very informal at the moment, very open. There's kind of gravel and a bit of landscaping. But the new tarmac road will come in, which is not exactly where it is at the moment. At the moment, it bends all the way around like a U shape. So that would demolish that bit of barn in the middle and come around at a more logical angle. It's all new really. So it is difficult to imagine. If you've been there, it's even quite difficult to imagine. So the new active travel corridor will come straight up that pink access road, but continue straight. It won't curve around. It will just be in a straight line, and that'll be a 3 or so metre wide footpath for cycles and pedestrians, straight up into HT1. There's also Hiver cottages, and that's to the left. So past the pink access, you go straight and then you turn left into Hiver cottages, and that access will also be maintained and retained. So it's a complicated dynamic, but I think it works. So the tarmac area with the pink will come in with the footpath on the left, and then that will merge into the new active travel corridor for HT1.
Right. Okay, thank you. That's really helpful.
Cool, thank
you. Councillor Strong.
Thank you. And I say, what a lovely barn and site. And I do love it when we do have some of these sort of settings that can be brought back and can be delivered. So I think, well done for the developers for having a vision of what you can actually do with the site. And I'm good to see there's a mix on it. However, the bin store. I hate bins, as you know, when you see them. And on my calculation, assuming that they don't subscribe to the garden waste service, that's 42 bins in the bin store. Are they all going to fit?
Yes, and there's also an option of Eurobins.
For what?
I think
Sorry.
The Eurobins, the big like dumpster type ones that you'd get for flats. But yes, the bins do fit. And if people subscribe to the garden bin as well, then they'd have to keep that in their garden. I think that's the plan.
I was very worried because that could add another 14.
It has been
so that would be
So
56 bins.
Some units have their own bin storage within the curtilage of their property. So not all the bins will be stored in the shed, the communal shed. It's only so I think units 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 along the northern boundary will all have the access to the shared bin store, and then the other properties will all keep their bins within their boundaries, if you like, and they'll have to bring it out to the curbside collection. And it's planned that the bin lorry can come right into the site, so the drag distances are good.
That'd be my next question is whether or not the big heavy freighters can get in and out. Not okay. Thank you.
Councillor Peace.
Thank you. So we've got no affordable housing here, and I understand the reasons why from the report. Were the numbers here included in the HT1 site, or are they just completely separate? So I think where my question is going is the affordable housing compensated for on HT1 for these?
It's not. They're completely different sites and considered separately. So because Hiver Farmyard, they've made the case that to not have on-site affordable units, we've agreed the commuted sum instead. So it's slightly short of the optimum commuted sum, but it's what was left that was viable. So it's still a good 493,000, I think, towards affordable housing, where it should have been about 550,000. So it's 57,000 short of what it should have been. But yes, they were considered separately. So the 700 homes on Hiver have their affordable housing requirement, and Hiver Farm has its own.
Councillor May.
Thank you. My question's about the gardens. So has each of the dwellings got their own private garden? And in addition to that, is there also additional shared green space as well?
They've all got their own garden, which all meet the standard, I think, or very close to. There's a couple of units that are a bit on the smaller side. There isn't any other green space within the site other than the BNG area, but because that's ecological, it wouldn't be kind of, amenity type green space, but it is right next to HT1 and the Threshing Barn Green is, on their doorstep. So I think that that's kind of mitigated there, and the play space as well.
Any further questions? Councillor Debenham.
Thanks. It's all that beautiful beaming inside staying.
Yes,
Thank you.
yeah, that's right. So I think the cladding, obviously the cladding's in poor condition, but the steel frame would wrap around the timbers inside and then reclad the whole outside. So from the inside, you'll see the timbers, which would be amazing.
No more questions. Then we will move to the member advocate, Councillor Daniel Wright Mason. You have 5 minutes to speak, and I'll give you a warning when you've got 1 minute left.
Great. Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just a quick one from me. Don't think I'll need the full 5 minutes. Yeah. Thanks everyone for having me. Just here, not as an objector, but just to reflect a number of points raised by residents living immediately adjacent to the site, which I hope will be helpful to the committee in your debate. As always, thank you to Sarah and colleagues for addressing many points in the officer report, but I think just for the benefit of the public, there's a few bits that'd be great to be extra highlighted on the record. A number of residents have raised concerns about flooding and drainage, particularly in relation to existing conditions on the access lane and the way water currently behaves on the site, including standing water after rainfall. I think it's important to place that in wider local context. Members will be aware of the significant flooding that affected parts of Hitchin, including Walgrove Road just over a year ago. That has understandably heightened residents' sensitivity to flood risk in this part of town, particularly on land that sits uphill from affected areas. There are also questions about how this proposal relates to the wider Highover Farm development and how surface water will be managed across the allocation as a whole. I appreciate these matters are addressed partly in the report, but it might be helpful for the committee in its considerations to reiterate the lead flood authority's final position following the submission of additional information, how the proposed drainage approach responds to local ground conditions, and how this scheme fits within the wider drainage strategy for the Highover Farm site. Some residents are also concerned about the loss of established boundary trees and the impact that this may have on privacy, particularly for properties along Highover Way. There appears to be some uncertainty from the plans as to what is being retained and what is not, and how boundary planting will be managed in practice. This is partly linked to some recent experience of trees and hedges that border the wider Highover Farm not being cut back. Finally, I did have a point on access, but I think that's been covered largely by Councillor Brown's question. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wright Mason. Are there any points of clarification from members? I'm not seeing any, so we will move on now to the applicant's agent, Mr. Ian Coward. You have 5 minutes, and I will give you a warning when you've got 1 minute left.
Good evening. So I'm the agent speaking in support of this application. After a year plus of pre-application discussion, we very much welcome that we're at committee with the recommendation to approve. As has been explained and adequately illustrated in the photographs, the site has been vacant for some time now. It was actually left outside of the larger HT1 site, the significant urban expansion. The Grade 2 listed threshing barn is in a very poor state of repair and urgent intervention is required. National policy recognises that small and medium schemes come forward efficiently, and we confirm that as soon as we are able, mindful we've got conditions and a Section 106 to sign, we will start with the barn and then work out logically across the rest of the site. It is rewarding to have an agreed plan to provide a bespoke residential scheme and bring the heritage assets back to life and ensure their continued stewardship and care. As explained, it's set around a courtyard, and we have, via negotiation, achieved the right balance of hard standing and green space whilst accommodating all that is needed for 14 units, not least car parking, and of course we've heard about refuse provision. A scheme of this nature is very different to the volume house building schemes and provides a very different type of home to those who are attracted to heritage properties, and in its own way it's still making its contribution to the housing and land supply. A mix of housing styles and types is always welcome, and we have got a mix across the board here. It links in successfully with the main HT1 site, and you've seen the footpath link through, so those two are all aligned. All technical reports have been agreed. We've had surface water looked at, and the Lead Flood Authority are happy with the scheme. Viability is always an issue in the current climate, and in addition to that, we've got all the work required to bring the listed building back to life. But again, an agreed position has been reached, and you have the obligation package before you. So in short, this has been a positive one for us, and it is one we are going to get on with quickly as soon as we're able to. I'm booked to speak on the listed building. I don't think to be fair, I have any more to add on that, so I won't return unless needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any points of clarification from members? No? I'd like to invite the officer to respond to any of the issues raised.
I have nothing else to add. Thank you very much.
Okay, lovely. Thank you, Sarah. Are there any further questions for the planning officer from members? No, right. Well, in that case, the officer's recommendation is to grant permission. Unless members are minded to propose a different recommendation on this item, along with material planning reasons, I shall be proposing that we grant permission. No one wants to speak, I see. So therefore, I propose that we grant planning permission. Oh, sorry. No, you're ready to vote. You're ready to say, jumping the gun. Okay, right, I'll start again. Therefore, I propose that we grant planning permission, subject to A, the completion of a satisfactory legal agreement, B, the applicant agreeing to extend the statutory period in order to complete the agreement as required, C, providing delegated powers to the Development and Conservation Manager to update conditions and informatives with minor amendments as required, and D, the conditions as set out in the report. Can I have a seconder?
Happy to second, and I reserve my right to speak, which I didn't do last time, even though I didn't speak.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Winstanley. We will now move to debate. Councillor Billing.
I just want to say I'm supportive of the recommendation. I think it's great to be able to see a listed building brought back to life, preserved for future generations, and yeah, being lived in and kept warm again.
Thank you. Councillor Brown.
I think this looks like a really nice scheme. Echo the other comments that have been made about bringing the listed building back to life, but also quite a lot of smaller units as well on this site. And it's a nice size development and a big improvement on what's there currently. Hopefully will complement, well, obviously 700 homes going right next door, but yeah, it looks like a really good scheme to me.
Thank you. Councillor Winstanley.
Yeah, agree with that. I think it's really tasteful. I like the way that the barn is being maintained and brought back into use. Yeah, I think it looks like a great scheme.
Councillor Strong.
Yes, very supportive of the scheme. I think I said I like the fact that there's a mix there. And actually, I think across the district, we don't see very many bungalows getting built. So and then again, if any of the developers are listening, we do like to have, there's a lot of people that would like to downsize into single unit type, bungalow type accommodation. And particularly if you can find it in a setting that this is going to be, I think this is going to be absolutely fabulous. And I'm really pleased that actually the developers prepared to actually take it on and deliver it back to us in the district. I think it's a great piece of work. Thank you. Thanks, Phil.
Councillor May.
Yeah, I agree with all of those comments, in particular the housing mix, and also the fact that there's a active travel route into the larger development as well. I think that's a good foresight to do that.
Lovely, thank you, everyone. Right. I think we can move to the vote now. So the officer's recommendation is to grant permission.
That motion's carried.
Okay, right. We'll move to the next one then. Yeah. Okay, so now we'll move to item 7 on the agenda, which is Application number 25/01383 LBC, Highover Farm, again, Highover Way. The presentation has already been provided for this item. Do members have any further questions for the planning officer, specifically about the listed barn part of the application? No? In which case, please could I invite the applicant, Ian, to speak again?
I think I need to, thank you.
No, lovely, thank you. So, are there the officer, I think are there any issues? Would you like to respond? No? Any further questions to the planning officer from anybody? No, this is great, isn't it? Oh, yes, Councillor Mantle.
It's a quick question. I did read the report correctly that the conservation officer has approved this, and that if we weren't supportive, we'd have difficulty maintaining in the absence of advice from the conservation.
The conservation officer does support the application. They recommended some conditions. You also can't have the full planning permission without the listed building consent. They've got to come together. So yeah, it's good.
Any further questions for the planning officer? In which case, the officer's recommendation is to grant permission. Unless members are minded to propose a different recommendation on this item, along with material planning reasons, I shall be proposing that we grant permission. Therefore, I propose that we grant planning permission, subject to A, issuing full planning permission for the farmyard, reference 25/01420/FP. B, providing delegated powers to the Development and Conservation Manager to update conditions with minor amendments as required. C, the applicant agreeing to extend the statutory period in order to complete the agreement as required. And D, the conditions set out in the report, including the additional condition 11 as outlined in the supplementary documents. Can I have a seconder?
You may have a seconder. I'm very happy, delighted to second, and I won't need to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brown, although I'm sure it would have been a lovely contribution. Can we therefore move to the debate? Oh, Councillor Strong.
Well, I think looking at it, I mean, it's going to provide, I think it's 2 units from this particular part. I think they're going to be absolutely stunning. Perhaps we ought to make the planning committee want to know whether or not they can get a tour before it goes on the open market. I think it's going to be absolutely amazing to actually see something of that, a barn of that quality that has really fallen into disrepair, to know it's going to have a place back in our district. I think it's absolutely fabulous.
Councillor Mandel, no? Okay, no more comments. Right, in which case, can we move to the vote, please?
That motion's carried.
Thank you. Thank you to the applicant for coming, and thank you to Councillor Mason as well. I think we have to have a little hiatus now. Yes. While Councillor Mason is brought back in, and I'll go and sit back down there at the end of the table. Thank
Did I miss much? I was watching you, don't you worry. Right. Item 8, planning appeals. Sean Greaves to present. Sean.
Thank you, Chair. There's no appeal decisions to report, although we did have one in after this report was written, which I'll very briefly mention, but will be reported next time. We've got one appeal lodged, which is for the erection of a second layer of storage units at a site at Cadwell Lane, Hitchin, and that's just been received, and that will obviously be dealt with as normal. The item that I will be reporting next time is that we have had the appeal decisions on the cabinet at Reed. Yes, and they were all dismissed. So yes, so that will be reported at the next meeting, obviously with the appeal decisions. But I just thought I'd mention that at last, after several years, we've had the decisions come through. That you can see them on public access if you want to have a look. They should be published. If not, I'll make sure that they are, but they will be reported at the next meeting in April. Yeah, they probably already know. Yes. Okay, that's all, really. Thank you.
Okay, do members have any questions? Well, Ruth already had one, but no other questions? Okay. That was for information note only. No vote is required, and we therefore close the meeting. Next meeting is on Thursday, the 16th of April. Thank you very much for your time and attention.